Hi you guys, welcome to the first ever real full episode of From the Heart. I am so excited. First off, if you are new here, From the Heart is a rebrand of my previous podcast, which is the Self-Made podcast. And if you didn't listen to last week's episode, that was me explaining just why I rebranded and what this podcast is going to be about. And essentially, a little summary of that is nothing about the content and about the information and the topics I'll be talking about is changing. It's solely just going to be the name because I feel like it doesn't really align with me. I feel like it doesn't really align with what I'm talking about anymore. I just kind of outgrew that. We served Self-Made, but now From the Heart just seems so much more real and authentic. And I'm just so excited. Your guys' response to the rebrand made my heart so happy because obviously I was nervous. I figured and I was hoping you guys would like it because I just love it so much and I prayed about it and I thought about it and I just really took my time with the rebrand. But the rebrand essentially came from, there was mainly one episode where it really stood out to me, and it was an episode where I just said, you guys, I'm just going to kind of open talk, open mic, and just let everything from my heart pour out. And I was like, wait, that's kind of what my podcast is. I really never have outlines. I have typically an idea sometimes of what I want to talk about based on the previous week and the lesson that I learned. Because it's funny when you kind of reflect and you start thinking, I feel like every single week there's a new lesson. I learned something new about myself, about life, about, I don't know, there's either a struggle or a lesson or kind of both. And I like to just open up and talk about it because I like my podcast to be kind of a big sister topic or just something that you guys can go to look for advice or to feel seen or heard, because a lot of the stuff I talk about, I used to think I was so alone. I used to think no one else could understand or relate, and it really isolated me and it made me feel kind of crazy, and so I've quickly learned that God has placed all these struggles and all of this different difficulties and honestly in the beautiful things and the amazing things in my life for a reason. And I feel like I want to share that with you guys because I feel like it can help you and help you guys avoid maybe a situation I've put myself in or a lesson that I've learned and you don't have to learn as hard of a way as I did. So yeah, I just feel like you guys have created such a welcoming community too, and I just want to thank you for that because I feel so comfortable and I feel so able to share and open up and talk about vulnerable topics and very personal stuff. I share my inner thoughts. This is practically therapy for me. And it's funny just because I never used to be one who shared a lot about my personal life or my feelings or my thoughts. I just kind of kept everything in, and that's actually going to kind of lead me to my first topic. But I just want to say thank you guys, and I appreciate the support and the love and the encouragement on this new podcast, and just I feel so connected with all of you listeners, and it makes me so happy. So yeah, here's to many fun, exciting episodes of From the Heart. But in honor of that, I wanted to start this podcast off with just an episode from the heart. I was kind of thinking about what did I learn this week, and there was a few different topics patience and communication, and there's a lot of different lessons. But I was you know what, let's do an episode where I just talk and I just share what's on my heart in the moment. It's actually funny because I did record this episode a few hours ago and the mics died and the audio was not even captured, so I'm re-recording it a few hours later. But again too, a big progressive thing that I've worked on, I don't think that was the right word, but I've come a long way because I used to be so upset and so stressed and get so mad when that stuff happened. But I'm you know what, God didn't want those words to be heard, or he knew I could reword it better, or I had something better to share and say. So that got messed up for a reason, and now we're here, and it's 5:00 and I leave for Stagecoach in a few hours, and we're getting to the podcast, we're getting to the episode. I'm really excited. But anyway, I'm done rambling and we'll get to the good stuff. Okay, you guys, so the first topic that I kind of wanted to talk about, this has been very prevalent and heavy in my life, honestly, the past month. This isn't something that was just this week. I was gonna make the whole episode on this, but there's just a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about. But the power of communication and how important, there's my dishwasher. Okay. The importance of communication and relationships and friendships in life in general. If you guys are familiar with my content, who I am in my life and my story, you guys know I recently got a boyfriend. I hard launched him. I finally did it, you guys. And I did that last week, and it's so funny because he's been in my life since January, and we've taken it very slow, and I'm literally going to have him on the podcast to talk about relationships and all this stuff because he's taught me so much, and I've honestly grown so much as a person and as a woman of God and relationships and stuff, like I've just, so much has changed. Like I do relationships so differently now, and I look at them so differently, and the way I like handle myself and him and our emotions and everything is just transformed, and it's been really cool. But I wanted to just kind of really emphasize the power of communication, because time and time again I have realized how important it is. Because I'm not gonna lie, you guys, like it's something I had to work on. But like, I was not a good communicator in the past. Like, I am not one to share my emotions, talk about my emotions. I don't like doing it because it makes me emotional and I'm a very sensitive person. So when I start talking about stuff, it kind of brings those emotions up. And so that was an issue. And then another issue I kind of began to realize I had, and a struggle that I was facing, was the fact that when I had a problem like within the relationship, and not that there's a lot, but like obviously like a healthy relationship, it's work, you know, it's not going to be perfect. We're new to this. Like, I think a lot of people assume relationships in the dating season, I mean in any season, but like should be picture perfect and like smooth sailing, but like that's not it. Like, we are working towards marriage. Like, that's the end goal. Like, I date for marriage, and like we have to like learn how to handle situations and get to know each other. And you have to, like, when you're new with somebody, you have to learn how to, you know, how they react and how you should respond to them, and vice versa, and like different like love languages, and just there's so much to learn, and it's such a cool process. It's like honestly taught me so much about myself. But obviously things like come up, and I've never been one to want to like make an issue of something that I don't think is worth like talking about. And I've realized like a lot of times I just suppressed how I was feeling or something that I was thinking, because I didn't want to seem crazy, or I didn't want to like create an issue, or I didn't want to, I don't know, like scare him off. I feel like that's a very normal thing for us girls. Like, I've talked to some of my girlfriends about it, and like everyone, I feel like, maybe you don't, but like I feel like a lot of people feel like that. Like, we don't want to bring something to their attention because we don't want to sound crazy, or we don't want to sound needy. Because I'm a very lax, chill person. Like, I don't have a lot of like, I don't know, like requirements or needs or wants. Like, I'm pretty independent and I can kind of function on my own. But like, obviously we're human, we're female, we have emotions. Male too, though. Like, there's things that we need and we want out of a relationship. And I, at the beginning, was not good at expressing that and communicating those needs. And obviously, like, how do I expect someone who's new in my life to understand that? Like, I don't know, I think we just assume they know. But like, I've quickly realized, especially men, living with my little brother, who's also in a new relationship, and him, and just boys don't always know. Like, if we don't express something, they can't read our minds, and genuinely they're doing their best. Like, I don't think most men at all, especially if they're your significant other and they care about you, they're not trying to upset you. They're not trying to cause any issues. Like, sometimes they just don't know. And like, it's healthy and it's good to communicate those things. And honestly, in friendships too, like, this literally goes hand in hand with any relationship in your life. Family, friends, like significant others. Like, if you don't communicate, like, how do you expect to resolve the issue? It just literally builds up, and it just causes like mass destruction. Like, it's pressure, you know, it builds and it explodes. And if you don't honestly like catch it at the beginning, it just snowballs, I feel like, and it makes it so much bigger. And I learned that, and I learned that the hard way, honestly, like throughout this, is like, I just need to be better at communicating right away, because it has always solved the issue, and we've always moved forward and learned something from it. And it's taught me how to better communicate my feelings, because it's just something I'm not good at, and I'm getting better at it. Like, I feel like I can talk to a camera about my feelings, but like talking to a person about how like our relationships and our feelings, like, guys, I struggled with this too, like with my friendships back home. Like, I just like, and I've been in the position where I didn't know I was doing something. And so it's like, we just genuinely don't know. It's like, you never want, like I said, to place any like harm on someone, or like make them sad, or like cause an issue. But like, if we're not communicated to, like, sometimes we just get busy in our lives and we get distracted. And if things seem good, like, why would you think they're not, you know? So I think it's something also we need to work on, is like not acting like everything's fine when like everything isn't fine. And it's healthy in relationships to talk about these things. It's so healthy. And so I'm just really prefacing like the power of communication, because it has just taught me how much easier life can be if you just communicate. Like, time and time again, like I said, like, there's been like multiple instances where like I know in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, last time I should have communicated sooner. And each time I still am tempted to just like brush it off, because again, like, I don't want to like cause an issue and like whatever. But I just have to be better at it, and I have, and it's like honestly been like a game changer. It's been a life changer. Like it's only benefited my relationships, and it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's funny because like I remember asking my parents who have been married for 23 years, like a beautiful marriage. I look up to them so much, and it's like something I really like, yeah, I just like really look up to. And I've asked them, I'm like, what's like the secret? Like, what is it? And they always say like communication. And I'm not gonna lie, back in my like younger years, me acting like I'm older than 22, but like when they would first say that, I was kind of just like, that's just like an easy answer. Oh, communication, communicate. But like, they're not wrong. They're not wrong. Like, you have to communicate. And like, it's honestly, it seems simple, but I feel like it's one of the hardest things to do. And I know some people are in the same position as me where it's just like hard to communicate, but you just have to be better at it. And you have to like understand, like maybe your partner isn't good at communicating and maybe you are. Like, be aware and be sensitive to the fact that it might be hard for them to talk about that stuff, but like that's something you guys can work on as a like as a couple, or your friendships and stuff. Like, it's not easy sometimes for people, and I want to like shine some light on that too, is like people are trying, because I think we can be quick to like judge and be like, oh, you just don't want to communicate, you don't want to open up to me, but like it's harder for some people than others. And yeah, you guys, it's just so important, you know? And like, I don't know, I feel like I just have so many little things to say about this, and I feel like the first time I said it might have went smoother. I hope you guys are tracking and following with this, but like, I too think like communicating how I'm feeling with like anyone is important too, like a friend, a family member. Like, you can't let things like bottle up inside, because then that's just when we a downward spiral, you know? Like, I was struggling with something a few days ago, and I was talking to Jake's girlfriend about it, and like me and her are like besties. Like, she's like a girlfriend to me, like a very close friend, and like just talking to her and like explaining like helps. And I think a lot of times too, we like don't talk about stuff. So it's really important to have that person in your life to, you know, communicate and process stuff. Because another thing for me is when something arises, I used to be very quick, and this is not something I'm proud of, but like I'll admit, I used to be one when something happened, I just like walked away. Like, I shut down. I don't like controversy. I don't like attention. I don't like confrontation. I don't like any of it. Controversy probably wasn't the word I meant at the beginning. I don't like that either, but I meant confrontation. I just don't like any of it. And so when it happens, like I get really anxious and I feel bad, and I don't want people feeling bad for me, and I don't want like them feeling bad that they're making me feel bad. Like, I don't want any of it. And so I just shut down and I don't communicate. Like, I walk away. And that's what I used to do, and it like wasn't healthy, and it's honestly like led to issues in the past for me. And like, I'm becoming aware. I'm like, okay, well, that's why that, you know, occurred. And again, it's something I've had to work on. But like, in those moments, like, it's okay to like step back and take time to process. Like, I can't maybe all the time communicate right away. Like, sometimes I need to sit and just like think a little bit, like, but the thing is, I don't let it go over like even a few hours. Like, I give myself like 10 minutes to like calm down, because sometimes, you know, you react out of emotion rather than like logic, and that's what kind of gets us in trouble, I think, sometimes, especially as females, because we do kind of like lead with emotions and feelings, but like that's not necessarily the best thing to do. I think it's good to like slow down and process it and kind of digest like what's going on and then talk about it. And I think that's healthy. Like, that form of communication is what's worked best for me, just because I know in the heat of the moment, sometimes I can't talk. Sometimes I don't know what to say. Like, I can't even process what's happening. So I have to like slow down, think about what happened, think about how I feel, think about how they feel, think about how we can like face something, like face the problem itself together rather than like facing each other. Like, that's one thing Kyler and I like off the bat said, like, the problem, it's not us versus each other, it's us versus the problem, and we need to work at it like a team, you know? Like, why is this happening? How can we both avoid that, you know, and like fix that issue, rather than like, you're doing this, I need this, I need this. It's like, how can we come together to like avoid this? Because it's a team effort. It's like teamwork, and that's how every relationship and friendship is in life. It's like not single, one-sided. But yeah, so that's really been on my heart. Like, really been on my heart. Communication is just so powerful. And I think like, even with friendships, like I said, and like checking in and like communicating is like so important. It feeds relationships, it builds them, it keeps them going. Like, my friends back home, my family back home, like I have to communicate with them. Like that's how, when you're not around, like you keep something healthy and alive, you know? And I honestly, I need to do a better job at that as well. It's like checking in and giving them a call. And like, I've gotten a lot better about like calling people on the phone rather than just texting and stuff. But it's just been something I've learned about myself, and it's interesting. Just the simple things like really are important, you know, like when people say things, it's like, oh, they weren't kidding, you know? But anyway, I'm going to take a sip of my water before we get into this next topic. But the next topic, you guys, is patience and waiting. And this has really been something that I've also learned the importance of. Is timing is everything, divine timing. And I've had to really lean on my faith for this, because I trust in God's plan. I trust in God's timing. He has our like stories written, our paths paved, and we just have to be obedient. And it can be so hard, you guys. Like, even I wanted to share Kyler with you guys like the first day I met him, but I just knew it wasn't right. Like, it was rushing things. And same with him and I. Like, we've been together since January, but like we haven't been in a relationship until recent. Like, it's a recent thing. And like, I was getting anxious. Everyone's like, why aren't you dating? Like, whatever. It's a process, and it's a healthy process, and like allowing things to fall into place at its like natural time is so healthy, and it's been so good. Like I said, especially in relationships, like it's a process to like build up to like marriage. Like, you have to work at things. It's like you kind of unlock new levels. I'm a very like visual person. That's how I like picture it. But like, it's a process, and you have to like work towards that. And like, when you meet someone, you're not ready for marriage. You have to go through these like little difficulties and these like lessons and learn about each other and learn about yourself. Like, we're not ready to be bride and groom. That's why like people don't get married right away, or we would all be getting married and engaged way sooner. Like, the dating season is so important. And I think a lot of times we get impatient and we rush things, and we want the title of a girlfriend or boyfriend. We want the title of husband and wife. We want the engagement. We want the babies. We want the house. And it's like, we put so much pressure on ourselves because we feel like I think it like stems from society, but it's like, just slow down and trust the process and allow things to happen naturally. And they will, like, they literally will. That's honestly what him and I did in our like relationship. Was like, I mean, when I have him on the podcast, we're gonna talk all about this. I don't want to like spoil it, but like, we really took things like slow, but we allowed it to like mature and develop naturally. And it's led into like the most beautiful thing ever. And honestly, it goes with everything though too, like in work and in like life. Like, I think our society, honestly, you guys, like, we've made everything so instant, and we have no patience for anything anymore. Like, every single thing we can get pleasure out of, we can get it instantly. And that is just not right. Like, we shouldn't seek pleasure the way we do. But I think that's why a lot of us turn to like sin, is because it's so accessible. Like, it is so accessible to like get pleasure out of anything, food, or like, I don't know, that's the first thing I can think of. But like, literally, like relationships, you know, like stuff you shouldn't be doing in a relationship, but it like gives you pleasure. Like, I don't want to get too graphic, but you guys know what I'm saying. Like, even like checking our phone and getting a dopamine rush of like likes, or I don't know, just everything is accessible so easily and so quickly that we don't have to wait for anything anymore. Like, if we need a hit of dopamine, like, think of all the ways we can access that in literally 5 seconds. Like, I'm not kidding, 5 seconds. And we've just really removed all aspects of waiting and patience. And I think it's like resulting in a lot of issues in our lives. Like, I'm not a very patient person, and it was hard for me to take things slow, like in this relationship, because I'm used to things being so fast. And it's like, even in business though, like in your careers and stuff, like it's a process. You have to be patient. You have to allow things to naturally build. Like, you can't expect to be an expert overnight. You can't expect to be a pro at something overnight. Like, it takes time, and it takes consistency, and it takes hard work. And I think we've just found so many cheat codes and shortcuts to everything in life nowadays that like we forget that the most important things in our life take time. They really do. Like, building a relationship with God takes time. Like, I can't just think I'm gonna be like overnight like this. Like, I want to be like a devoted Christian, and I work on it, but it's a process, you know, like it's a journey. And the same with like careers, and the same with like relationships and stuff. It's such a process, and there's no like shortcuts to it. And we need to stop like seeking those, because I think that's like where we lose a lot of the beauty, you know? And And like, it kind of reminds me of like running even. Like, I was talking to my client about it. She has her marathon this weekend and I'm so proud of her. But I'm like, girl, that's like the celebration. That's the victory. But like, the best parts were like the journey to get here. All of the hard weeks that like you've put in, all the hard long runs, all of the early mornings, like all the hard workouts, like that's where all the magic and the growth happened to get you to where you are now. And like, if we just skipped over that, she would have lost so much. You know, if she could just magically run 26 miles right away, like what's, you know, like you just miss out on so much. So it's like, allow things to take time and allow things to mature, and don't compare someone else's timeline to yours. And I know people say that a lot, but it's just so flippin' true. Like, God will place things into your life at the right times, and you just have to trust him and be obedient, and it will bless you, and it will be better than you can even imagine. It really, really will be. So I have something in my eye. I think an eyelash fell in my eye. But yeah, so those two were like the main things I really wanted to talk about. It was just the power of communication and the power of waiting and having patience, because it's just so important, you guys. Like, it's so important, and they're so easily like dismissed. You know, it's so easy to be impatient. It's so easy to not communicate. But like, when you do them correctly and properly and trust in them, it makes life a lot easier. It really, really does. And then the next thing I wanted to talk about, this was another thing that I've really been like seeing in my life and understanding recently, is just the power of community. And we've talked a lot about like friendships and relationships, but like they're so important. And I think like this has been very prevalent in my life, especially due to the fact that like I do have a boyfriend in my life now. And I'm one person who I prefer like a few really close, tight-knit relationships and like friendships, rather than like a ton of surface level. Like, I can't keep up with a ton that are just kind of like there. Like, I want those really deep, rich friendships. I've always been this way. Like, even in high school, like I just had like my few close friends that I like spent most of my time with, you know, and my boyfriend. And it's really easily like I feel like a lot of us do this. Sorry if you guys hear banging. I'm dog sitting and he's outside and he looks so cute. But I've always kind of been like this, but it's a struggle when I get into a new relationship. It's like they're literally my favorite person and I want to spend every single second with them. But one, that's not healthy to like be around them. There can be too much of a good thing, like, is not good. And you have to still prioritize like other friendships and other relationships in your life. And it can be so hard, but like literally growing up in high school, I dated a guy, and like I kind of unintentionally, but like I would kind of isolate myself and just hang out with him because it's what I wanted to do. Like, and oftentimes like him and I were like great, you know, it was a very healthy relationship. So like we always wanted to do, like he wanted to do what I wanted to do, and then everyone was happy. But like you do miss out on a lot, and community is so important, and having a variety of people in your life is so healthy and important. And I've honestly gotten comfortable the last few months of like hanging out with Kyler and hanging out with Jake and Jake's girlfriend Emma. Like, we're all like, it's the most beautiful thing. Like, I absolutely adore all of us, and we all get along so well. And I'm so grateful that God has placed like that into my life, because it's like, what could be better? Like, all of us get to hang out and we're all friends and we like travel together, we're on a stagecoach together. Like, it's so amazing. But like, it's easy to get like, honestly, just kind of like isolated into that. And I've realized like I need to continue to like branch out into other relationships and pour into other people as well, because they can be such a blessing in my life too. Like, you know, like you need that variety. And I just think it happens often when we get into new relationships. It's you just want to be with your significant other, but like, no, you can't be like this is me like literally speaking to myself. It's like, still make time for other people. And then another thing you need to still make time for is me time and you time, especially if you're like me and you're an introvert and you kind of thrive and reset off just some alone time. I've had a lot less of that, like if at all any, recently, because any like spare second I feel like I will spend with him, because obviously I want to be with him and we're busy. So when I have a chance, I'm with him, and like I've loved that. But I had like a me night the other night because Jake and him went fishing, and so I was alone, and I was like, wow, like I woke up very refreshed, and I'm like, I really needed that. Like, I watched a show, I made my creamy, I put a face mask on, I just like reset, and it's so healthy for me to do that. So if you know that about yourself, like make sure you're prioritizing like just time for you. Like, schedule that in, because it can be hard. It can be easily dismissed as well. Like, we can easily put that to the side. But like, you want to be the best version of yourself for your friends and for your significant others and for other people in your life. And it's just so important that you don't neglect you time, especially too if like I have older listeners who have like children and stuff. Like, I'm sure you barely get any me time, but like still try to prioritize that because it's so healthy and so important for us to just like, I don't know, for me it just kind of feels like a release. I can just like chill, I can just be lazy, I can do nothing, I can like unplug, I don't go on my phone, or I can sit on my phone and just kind of couch potato it and not feel guilty, you know, because when I am with people, I'm very present, and sometimes it's like, you know, you just want to like scroll on social media and not feel bad about it, you know. So like allow yourself that time, and allow that, and also to like consciously make an effort to plug time in for other people, like get breakfast with a friend, get coffee with a friend, meet a friend at the gym, like still associate with other people, or like as a couple go hang out with other couples, like when you still can be together, but you can also still socialize, because there's just so much to gain by community and friends. And every person in my life has been such a blessing. Like there's not a single person I've met here that hasn't like taught me such a big lesson in my life, you know, like they are either like a role model and have taught me how to like, I don't know, grow my faith, or like be treated in a relationship. Like there's just so many examples. I'm blanking. There's so much. Like being around people, it always fills my cup. And it's important too to like have those people. And I'm very blessed that I have a circle of people that they do fill my cup, and they do, you know, make me better. And I just don't want to remove myself from that, because now I have someone else to spend time with. Like it's still important to have those people in your life. So just really want to like preface that, because it's easy to do when you're younger in high school. It's easy to do in college. It's like you get busy and then you have a few seconds of alone time. You want to spend it with them, but like spend it with them, but also split that time up amongst other people as well. But yeah, that was a big thing too. So circling back, summarizing what we've talked about so far, just the power of communication, and just like being open and honest with how you feel, and understanding that like the people in your life, they want you to express that to them. They want to be the best for you too. So like you coming to them, like they shouldn't make you feel guilty. They shouldn't make, like the right person won't make you feel guilty about like saying something. And the dog is getting so impatient. And also too, like be patient, and the waiting season is worth it. It really, really is. It can be so hard. Trust me, I know, but like it's so rewarding, and it's so fulfilling, and it's so necessary. And then just make sure you're plugged in with community and have the right people in your life, and like associate with them, and don't isolate yourself, because isolation can be scary and not a fun place to be in, and it's not healthy. Like God placed us with people. He wants us to be in a community. Like we thrive with others. And so make sure you're thriving with others, you know? Guys, I'm loving this episode, because these are really important things that I really want you guys to like consider and really think about. And I hope it's helping one of you, if at all any. But the last thing I want to talk about, and this will be kind of brief, but this is just something that's definitely also been kind of going on, is just understanding that progress isn't always linear. We're gonna have setbacks. We're gonna like go backwards. And sometimes this is like a nice illustration. And I saw this one time, but it's like a slingshot has to be pulled back before it can be launched forward. And sometimes I feel like we just keep feeling like we're getting pushed down. We're taking 2 steps back for every 1 step forward. And it can be so discouraging and so overwhelming and stressful. But understand that like you can still make changes, and like just because you're down bad doesn't mean you can't come back. Like for me, doing the 75 hard, my physique changed a lot. I'm not gonna, like, I'll be honest, like I leaned out and I felt great. 75 hard finished. Some of like, I'm not moving as much. I'm not drinking as much water. I'm not training for a half marathon, like other factor storage right now. I'm struggling right now. But the last thing I was going to say is just like, understand that nothing is permanent, and like it can be changed. Like I said, like my physique isn't what it once was, but like I can still get back to that and make it even better. And it's like understanding to like love yourself unconditionally, no matter what situation you're in. Just because you might not be at your best doesn't mean that you should be loving yourself any less. And that's so, I know it's so much easier said than done, because like we have bad days. I have bad days. I have bad body image days. I have discouraging days. Like I have days where I'm like, what the heck, Chloe? Like this is your job. Like do it. Like stay accountable. Like you preach this stuff. Like do it. But like we're human. We still have bad days, you know? And I just like want you guys to understand like what I help, like how I help myself in those situations is like taking a step back, slowing down, and understanding that it's fixable. Like everything is typically fixable, and there's action steps we can take to like fix it and get back to where we want to be, if not better, like I said. And instead of like, sitting and feeling bad about yourself and like throwing a pity party, it's like start making plans to better yourself and start like reflecting and finding solutions and start working towards that, because you can get back to where you were. And I hope this is really encouraging to any of you who like, I don't know, like this literally can be in any aspect, not just like based on a physique, but that's like kind of what's relevant in my life. It's like all of it is, nothing's permanent, okay? Nothing's permanent, and you can still make changes and get back to where you feel the best. So yeah, anyway, I'm going to wrap up the episode here. That is kind of everything that's on my heart. I feel like it just opened up and poured out everything. That was kind of a vulnerable episode, but that is what this podcast is for. And I just hope some of you guys can relate or feel seen or feel heard, because I feel like I used to think I was alone in a lot of stuff. And it's funny because I remember seeing TikToks and it really made me realize like I don't have any original thoughts. Like everything that I'm like, no one will understand. Literally I'll see a TikTok about it and I'm like, oh, so you 10, 100 million, bajillion other people also feel like this and experience this and go through this. So I hope one of these points, I don't know, connected to you and helped you in any way. But again, I just want to thank you guys for all of the love and the support constantly. It means the world to me. And I wouldn't be able to be here without you guys. And I love you and I adore you. And I hope you have an amazing, beautiful, blessed day whenever you're listening to this. And we will chat next week. It's going to be a fun episode. I'm going to try to get my boyfriend on. We're going to talk. He'll be on probably multiple times because he's like so good at speaking. It'll be a very good episode. I'm looking forward to it. But I just wanted to do like an OG from the heart episode first to kickstart the podcast. But yeah, anyway, love you.